Hello everyone, welcome to Cradex Tech. Today we are looking at the iPhone 15 Pro Max and is it worth buying in 2024 or early 2025? And let's find that out in this video, shall we? Starting with the design, and it's the first time Apple switched to a titanium frame, making it 20 grams lighter, which is lighter than all the Pro Max model that came before this, and even including the 16 Pro Max. This one in particular did slip from my hands while making this review, and it made a dent, which you can see. But the glass wasn't cracked, which makes it a good phone to own over the time, and it has held up pretty well. You can see there were two distinct changes that happened over here. The first one is the action button, and the second is the Type-C port, which are two of the major changes that happened since the last iPhone. Action button I would say is a good upgrade, as I never really used the mute switch in the older phones. So Apple gave you a button that is customizable, making it great. Right? 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 No, because I was in constant search of utilizing this action button to its full extent. After experimenting and changing it from different shortcuts, even flashlight and Shazam, I finally stuck with the camera button. Too cliche? And even the placement of this button made this more cumbersome to use, where you definitely had to do more hand gymnastics to get over the button. But it's great to get just a quick landscape shot if you go out a lot. The second change is the Type-C, where Apple made a great change for this one. Or should I say Europe? Thank you EU regulations. The Type-C found on this phone is the faster port, and it does support the USB 3.2 Gen 2, which goes up to 10 GB speed. When transferring the 3.8 GB file using the SSD between the devices, it just took 13.5 seconds for the S24 Ultra, but 10.5 seconds for the 15 Pro Max. This makes it much faster than the S24 Ultra, and even my iPhone 16 Pro, which took 13.5 seconds to transfer. This is a weird downgrade for the 16 Pros from the 15 Pro Max. I'm not sure what happened over here, it might be the software as well. But the phone just comes with the 2.0 cable in the box. I would say that's a blunder, as this phone supports much faster speeds. But in short, it's great that Type-C has a whole set of accessories that connect with it, and you can easily use this for any niche purpose. And I really appreciate that I don't have to deal with Lightning port anymore. If you want, I can make a best accessories videos for the Type-C port on the iPhone 15 Pro. Let me know in the comments below. Now that we have done with the design and hardware on this phone, let's look at the software on it as well. As this is running on beta software on iOS 18.2, which does come with Apple Intelligence, which is connected to the ChatGPT, but has limited functionality right now, but is going to be the game changer if it keeps on its promise. This will be the oldest phone to support the Apple Intelligence, which is a great thing, as this is going to get all the features that's come in the iPhone 16s as well. This phone originally came with the iOS 17, and I would say it will be getting 6 more years of software update going up to iOS 2023. Going up to iOS 23. Going up to iOS 2023. Going up to iOS 23. Which actually makes sense as this was released back in 2023. If you have used an iPhone before, you must know that the software is going to be great. And it really runs well on this phone, which can be actually said about some of the older phones as well. It's the reliable software that keeps me hooked with them, but it's getting more stale and boring in the Apple front, and I have been waiting for an overhaul for the new iOS now. I'm not going to go over all the changes and the features from the iOS 18.2, but here you can arrange the apps and the widgets anywhere on the screen, and you can even make the icons dark or even tint them. Performance has been the next best thing that's great on this phone. This phone has an A17 Pro chip with 8 GB of RAM, and this one has 512 GB of storage, This phone just seamlessly opens all the apps faster and also keeps them in the memory for longer. The video editing game on this has been great and it exports most of the projects extremely fast. I don't like to run benchmarks on phone these days, but it's good to get a rough idea of where your phone stands against others. Comparing this with the iPad Pro 11, which has the M1 chip in it, and this scores better in some ways. The single core is 23% higher on the iPhone compared to the iPad. The multi-core is 14% lower on the iPhone. The GPU is 17.3% lower as well. And comparing the 3D benchmark test, this is 46% lower. And the stability on the 15 Pro Max is at 94%. And it's crazy that we are comparing a mobile chip to a desktop class chip. Comparing with the latest 16, and this is 12.5% lower in CPU and 6% lower in GPU, which just explains how powerful this chip was compared to the older flagships. Comparing with the S24 Ultra, this is 33.8% better in the GPU front in the 3D benchmark, and 23% better on the CPU, which is higher. And so this phone does hold its ground with the A17 Pro chip in it. This phone can also run all the game titles found on the App Store. And last year it came with the hardware accelerated ray tracing, which makes it great for high-end games to run along with the ray tracing. And you can see the Genshin Impact just runs at 120 FPS all the time. After I did like 20 minutes of gameplay on this one, it did started overheating a lot. And you can definitely see that this does overheat after a long session. That's not all though, as this can play some AAA titles from the PS4 as well, like the Resident Evil 4, All the Village, and even the Assassin's Creed. Here you can connect this to an PS5 controller and even to an external display thanks to the Type-C cable. And you can play all of these games on a bigger screen just like the PS4. But it's not the exact same games found on the PS4, as it has been dialed down a bit in the settings to run on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. A17 Pro is going to last a long time, and it's also going to support more AAA titles coming in the future as well. Talking about the performance, the call quality is great on this phone, and so are the mics. It has the Qualcomm X70 modem inside it, giving it better 5G network, where in the areas other phones give out just 1 bar. Coming to the display, this has a 6.7-inch XDR AMOLED display, which is a 120Hz panel going up to 2000 nits of brightness and plenty bright for outdoor visibility. This is the same panel found on the iPhone 14 Pro and even the 16 Pro. The colors on this panel just pop out while watching content on it. And I always support the 120Hz on it. They have also made the bezel a bit slimmer, as you can see when comparing with the iPhone 14 Pro. You can see the screen quality comparing with the S24 Ultra as well, which goes up to 2600 nits of brightness. This phone also goes up to 1.9 nits of lowest brightness compared to 1 nit on the 16 Pro. And I think this is one of the better things on the phone, as this is the first thing you interact while using the phone, and having a good display on a phone is a must these days. The speaker on this phone is no slouch as well, and you can definitely see the comparison with the S24 Ultra and the 16 Pro. Camera has been the talking point in iPhones since many years now, and this certainly doesn't disappoint. This has the triple setup, with a 24mm f1.8 lens as the primary sensor. Second is the 13mm ultra wide at f2.2, and finally 120mm telephoto, which was new at the time. Mind you that 5x is only available on the Pro Max model, specifically the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which was a long wait to get the periscope camera on an iPhone. Starting with a 24mm lens, the photos these take are on point. This primary lens takes up to 24 megapixel shot by default, where the quality between the 24 megapixel and 48 megapixel Pro RAW shot isn't that far apart, which you can see zooming into the car. The details are maintained. But if you check the 48 megapixel RAW, definitely takes up more detail, where you can see more specifics in the rocks. Checking on the auto mode, the dynamic range on every photo looks spot on, and you can see it maintains the shadow on every shot. You can see this is the fast moving shot, and still it maintained all the colors to natural. Seeing the beach photos look vibrant and appealing too. While taking a human subject photo, you can change it to the portrait mode later as well, after the photo is taken, which is a good feature which was added. But this only works when a human face is detected. The ultra wide, on the other hand, is far behind the main shooter, but it does take more pleasing shots with less artifacts and fringing while in good light. The star of the show would be the 120mm lens, that's the 5x, as you can zoom much further into the shot. The details in here are great, but it also keeps the telephoto look. The telephoto is also used in portraits, where you have to back away from the subjects while taking a shot, as it was 2x or 3x in the previous phones, and the photos does include background blur even without portrait mode. The night shots taken on this phone are spot on, with less blur and noise. The shutter on this is faster compared to the previous models. The shots are taken with 30 seconds of shutter, and I would love if Apple would make their shutter open up for at least a minute. Now comparing this with the 15 Pro Max, and you can see the photos are sometimes better on the 16 and sometimes on 15. You can see in the natural fusion photo, at first glance both the phones looks exactly the same, and true for the normal 24 megapixel photos. You can see almost no difference to the colors and the quality of the photos. Every photo just looks 95% similar to each other. Even the telephoto looks the same on both, and they are exactly the same sensors. And the ultra-wide camera takes the same photos and are stuck with 12 megapixel on auto. But you can definitely take advantage of the ultra-wide's Pro RAW, but not going to see much difference in the 48 megapixel shot in auto mode. Also comparing with the S24 Ultra, and both of them take stunning shots. You can see both look almost identical to each other. Zooming into the shot, the iPhone does maintain the grains better than the Samsung, but you are not going to find much between both. Even the 5x on both of these looks great, and you can see the reflections on the car are handled by both. Coming to the videos, and as usual it's an iPhone video, so it's going to look amazing in the end. And all of the videos I take on this have been at 4K at 60 fps, which makes it better for slowing down later if you wish. You can see I have recorded few shots for my 16 Pro Max review as well from this phone. The stabilization is amazing on here, and even the dynamic range is maintained well in every shot. Even the telephoto lens makes up for a natural background blur. I have shot an entire commercial video for a restaurant and even made a music video with this phone. So this explains the capability of this camera. This also supports log ProRes for up to 4K 60 fps, which is just amazing for the color grading. But I'm not gonna record ProRes due to the large file size. Taking up photos and videos on this phone does drain up a lot of battery. So coming to the battery section of this phone, and it comes with 4441 mAh battery, which is a weird number. And I have been getting 6 to 7 hours of screen on time on this device, which is great. And I don't usually play a lot of games on this phone, but I have been using it extensively. There was a new matrix with the iPhone 15 along with the battery health, which does provide the cycle count and the manufacturing date of the device. Also here you can set the charging limit in between 80 to 100%. This phone also supports up to 27 watts of max charging, which is really low by today's standards. But then again, it also supports 15 watts of wireless charging and 4.5 watts of reverse wireless. But the battery life does compensate for it. Battery life is nothing to complain about, but it's nowhere close to the iPhone 16 Pro Max or even the S24 Ultra for that matter. If you have stuck with me this long, welcome to the conclusion of this phone. This phone has a lot of pros going for it, especially the titanium frame, battery, camera, action button, and Type-C. But also falls short on some of the things, just like the overheating on intensive tasks, poor back glass which is more prone to breaking, slow charging, as well as iOS 18. Even after all of these shortcomings, the pros does outweigh the cons. And I think considering that this phone has been a year old, you can definitely grab a good deal on Amazon or the refurbished market for this one. iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max have been out already and I have made a video on those. So if you want to check that, feel free. But in short, considering there aren't many changes on the iPhone 16 and the Pros over the iPhone 15, I would just say save up some money and just get an iPhone 15 Pro or the Pro Max. This phone will also be getting the Apple Intelligence, and for the feature set of this phone, this is definitely worth getting in 2024. And I would definitely recommend this phone getting in 2025 as well. Let me know in the comments below if you still have this phone and how you feel about it. That's been it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Chole.